what a privilege to sit down with you at your home. Let's dive straight in. Where did it start for, I know you as Annette Cowley, but now Annette Cowley-Nel. Where did it start for you?
It started when I was at school. I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. I was trying very hard to be a gymnast. My neighbor Renee was a Western Province gymnast, and I was in awe of her, like her gymnastics. And she used to come home every weekend from these gymnastics things and competitions with medals and rosettes. And so all I wanted to do was be a gymnast. So I was at Boston Primary School out in the northern suburbs, and I used to go to gym training every day of my life that I could. And then what I would do afterwards, our school built a new pool in those days, so we'd go down to swimming afterwards, like to cool off for no other reason. And then the swimming coach at the school sort of saw me swim and said, won't you swim in our gala?
Okay.
And that's how it started. So from there I went very quickly to like Western Province schools, and they had a channel in those days that was quite specific.
Yeah.
And I think I came I came first in my first 50-meter backstroke race.
It was backstroke.
It was 50-meter backstroke, and everyone said, you beat Nikki Clegg, you beat Nikki. I remember that. And then I was like, who's Nikki Clegg? I knew nobody. Now I know who Nikki Clegg is, Shame, and she was the superstar at the time.
Okay.
And then I went to SA Schools in Bloem. And there I came second in the 50-meter backstroke. That was like my thing. And I was beaten by a girl from a very sturdy, strong-looking girl from the Free State. And then I think the coaches then approached me to say, do you want to start training seriously? And that's how it began. Then I started training with Tom Frankel.
Okay, so that was in the late 1970s.
Yeah, that was in the late 1970s. So I was sort of around about 1976, 77, leading up to that sort of time. So I was still quite young, 9, 10 years old. And in those days, the two top coaches in Western Province were Clara Urich and Tom Frankel. And Clara actually used to give stroke lessons at our school pool. And she still laughs. I visit her to this day. And like when I was a little pipkin of a girl, I must have been 7 or 8. She came out from Holland. She's a Dutch lady.
Yes.
And she was very strict with us at school. And I never forget, I did the wrong thing in the pool, and she stuck her clog on my head. I was terrified of her. She had like a Dutch clog that she would wear. Like they were probably Dr. Skulls, but I could just see the clog. And I just decided I'm not swimming for this lady. And I mean, to this day, I just love her, and she's been a great mentor to me as well.
Fantastic.
But I decided to go and swim with Tom, which was very.
I think the squad was called Tomcats.
Tomcat Swim Squad.
Tomcat Swim Squad, and you guys came to Windhoek.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
so
that's where I met you the first time. Yes.
And I have to say that it was a very, very close team. We had wonderful kids, and Tom was really ahead of his time in terms of coaching and being in touch with what was going on in the rest of the world. For, in those days we were so isolated in South Africa, so we didn't have much other than a subscription to Swimming World magazine, which we all used to devour and like see all our heroes and read about them. And Tom was incredible because he had some great skill in like keeping us motivated, organizing tours. I remember when I was 12, I went over for 6 weeks to Midland, Texas on a swim camp with a few other swimmers, and so it was a great privilege to swim with him.
Okay. Yeah, I remember spending one December here in Cape Town swimming with you guys, with Tom Frankel.
Yeah.
And all I can remember is we basically stayed at the swimming pool from the morning till the evenings.
I remember that.
And eating toasted cheese sandwiches, which
His
is now a big
Sue.
problem. This is now the problem.
Yeah.
It's happened those years.
Problem. Sue Frankel his wife at the time was just amazing. She used to like make those toasted cheese samis in the hut. Yes. And we used to dream about them while we were training, because we used to train for 2 hours in the morning. Then we used to like hang out by the pool a bit. We did some stretching and stuff. Then we'd take the train to Muizenberg Beach, and we'd hang out at the beach for the rest of the day until the next training session in the afternoon. and we would religiously had to arrive at training like 45 minutes before, so
he
we
was
could
very
stretch,
strict, he
and
was very strict.
and everybody always had to greet coach with the handshake, you know, hi coach. And so it was all, there was a great camaraderie amongst the swimmers, and we were very blessed to have such a wonderful upbringing and fun times, and we just, that was our little social circle.
It was fantastic. I mean, a lot of the swimmers are still your friends, guys like Philip van Niekerk and
very much so, like really, I mean, even the ones that I swam with nationally, we still chat all the time, and you know, Phil and I obviously go back a long way, because we started when I was 9 and we were best friends sort of growing up. And the squad sort of grew from there. I mean, the guys like Sean Frampton, Craig Byron, you know, there are lots of amazing swimmers that came out of that era. Wayne Neft, we called Victor de Freitas there, and Gavin Bromley, Corin Bromley, amazing swimmers from that era,
That's incredible memories, and I mean that's why I'm doing this whole series of videos, is to get these memories and to share the stories, because the modern day swimmers, I mean, we'll get to your daughters who are now modern day swimmers, they do things slightly different. I mean, they won't eat toasted cheeses between.
Oh no, no, it's all like lean protein,
exactly,
you know, no this, no carbs, whatever.
We could have been a lot better if we ate properly.
Oh, maybe.
Toasted cheese can only take you that far.
Yeah, they're pretty fast. I mean, I think my girls, they're healthy eaters, but they're just very aware of like how
I think that's
properly.
how sport is these days. I mean, they've got a lot more information.
I think so.
But back to you, I think 81 was your first nationals.
1980, Cape Town, 1980.
Okay.
And then 81 was PE.
And there you came, I think, second in the...
Oh my gosh, I can't remember PE. All I remember was 82 in Pretoria when I got my Springbok colours.
Yes.
That was like my dream and my goal that I fought for so long.
I mean, your first sort of triumphs were in backstroke, but you're known for being a freestyle, 100 and 200 meter freestyle swimmer. But you also swam backstroke, and I think it was 83, 84, you won 6 national titles.
That's correct.
Which is the same as Karen Mia and Paul Blackbeard, were the only other 2 before you to have done that.
Yeah.
Can you remember, I mean, obviously 100, 200 freestyle?
It was 100, 200 free, 100, 200 back.
Okay.
200 and 400 IM.
Okay.
So interestingly, I always tried
both years were the same
events. I always tried to, so I was very versatile in terms of what I could do, and I think that came from Tom's training. He was an incredible coach because he gave us an incredible base like to work off. So when I literally could swim anything. I wasn't a brilliant breaststroker. I think I got better at breaststroke as I got older, but I think I just never focused on breaststroke. Now it's my favorite stroke with my head.
That's all we can do now.
Anyway.
Breaststroke scared most of us because you could get disqualified so easily. I mean, there were so many technical things, not allowed to put your head underwater and only 1.5 or 2 strokes and all. No butterfly kicks or anything.
Talking about that, because we weren't as strict in South Africa about 2 hands and sort of technical stuff. I mean, I guess that was a big thing, but we had the 2 false starts before you got kicked out. When eventually went to swim in America, one of my first meets there for my new coach, who was the American Olympic coach, I was entered into the 500 free, which I was horrified about because I hated anything.
Was it 500 yards or what?
500 yards, Okay. So they do, so it's 100, 200, 500, still the same in the NCAA.
Really? Till today? Oh, wow.
So I was horrified because I just thought, what is this guy doing to me? I'm a sprinter. And first start, I flew into the pool and I didn't realize it was you off on the first false start. And so he was so cross with me.
So you got disqualified?
Yeah, that was the start of my American swimming career.
Nice. It could only get better from there. Tell back to nationals. So you swam quite a lot of nationals, won a lot of national titles. Your very first title, can you remember that?
I do. I remember it very well because it was something that I worked so hard for so long. And I remember being very well prepared mentally for that. So although I started as a backstroker, for some reason I just did a fluke 100 free one day and did really, really well. And then Tom decided, like, let's just focus on the 100 free. I wasn't enjoying my backstroke as much.
Yeah.
And so I just played this thing over and over, this race in my mind over and over again. I was very like in tune mentally. Tom was very good with that as well.
Oh, did he help you with a mental approach?
With coaching us, he used to have the set of tapes in those days, not CDs or DVDs, by a psychologist called Viktor Frankl.
Yes.
And he used to give us these sets of tapes. I'd love to get my hands on those now. We used to play them, and he used to tell the story of Wilma Rudolph and how she started with polio and wanted to run in the Olympics and just couldn't because of it, how she overcame that. So he gave us this amazing background mentally.
It's unfair. That's why you guys were so good. We didn't have those tapes.
Yeah. So when I dove in 1982, I knew I was going to win the 100 free.
Really? You had that
100%
confidence.
knew I was going to win it.
Incredible.
I thought nobody's trained harder than me. My mind's stronger.
Can you remember who was the current SA champion you swam against?
You know, it's interesting, but in my day, it was Corin van Helden was more of a backstroker,
yes,
so she was my absolute hero. I just
you were not alone in that one. I think
I know she was gorgeous as well. So I think all the boys loved her too. But she was my, you know, I used to keep albums about her, all the things that were in the newspaper and in the magazines. I had my own Corin album. That was my thing, and I'll never forget when she first signed something for me. I was just, when I got an autograph, that I just like slept with it next to my bed. I was so excited. So
and she swam in that nationals when you went to nationals?
Yeah, and she was so sweet to me, really. She was amazing to me. And there was Patricia Butcher, but she was more middle, long distance. Yeah. And for some reason, I've like zoned out, like who I beat in the 100 free. I'll have to go back and look in the scrapbooks.
No, it's just interesting because sometimes that's sort of the target. You want to beat someone specifically, but you...
In the 50, there were a lot of good girls, like Connie Fritsch. Corin Fritsch was a great 100 free swimmer as well. So they were very good. The Natal girls were amazing. And, you know, there were like the Hardwich girls. There were a lot of amazing sprinters in those days. And they were all from Durban because they could train year-round in the outdoor pools and what have you. And we only had Longstreet bars for all the squads in Cape Town. So we'd all arrive at Longstreet and our whole squad would get one lane in the 33 and a third yard pool. So by the time the first person set off in the chain, the last person was starting, and then you'd catch up. So you couldn't really train properly, but that's...
And if you try and pass someone would come from the front and hit you on the hands sometimes.
The only bonus that we had was that Greg Carswell would come and swim there, and all the girls used to faint when Greg was there because he was so handsome.
Yeah, no, Greg... I'll still need to get Greg to sit down and chat to him as well.
So. Yeah,
that'll probably be my most watched video of all times.
He's still so handsome, but he's so nice, and he's got the most gorgeous wife and daughter.
No, I speak to Greg every week, and he's so excited about what we're doing, and he's actually helped me a lot to get hold of some of the older swimmers like Jeff Grills and all these guys I spoke to.
He's
was
got
all
the most
Greg.
amazing legacy in terms of his family in the Eastern Cape, in East London, and the fact that he was a water polo player, but he was also such a strong swimmer, and I always thought that was an amazing combination. Yeah. So when
what people don't know, Greg says his first love is rugby. He was a very good rugby player as well.
No, he loved. I mean, let me tell you. I mean, he chats to my husband all the time about rugby and all sorts of other funny things. Yeah. He's very funny.
So, Annette, you swam a couple of Currie Cups and won multiple titles, and then you got the scholarship to go to University of Texas.
Yeah, I was very blessed to be offered I was sort of offered quite a few places, and in those days we didn't have internet, we didn't have cell phones. My father was a physician. I grew up in the northern suburbs of Cape Town, as I said, and so it was quite a simple life. My mom used to drive me to Newlands every day from Belleville to train. She was she was so dedicated. If it wasn't for my parents, I never would have got anywhere, because they just had such a love for it. And
I think your daughters can say the same.
Yeah, shame. And my sisters Diane and Margie were 7 and 9 years older than me, so they were already like ending school into varsity by the time my swimming was taken
And they didn't
off.
swim at all? Competitively?
They didn't have the facilities I
Yeah.
had. They used to have to go down to Belleville Pool, and I
Okay.
have no doubt if they'd had the facility at the school, they would have been great swimmers.
Yeah.
They've got the right physique and
Yeah.
everything. But my family was actually more academic, musical,
Okay.
theatrical, funnily enough. So I was sort of the first one that really took to being an athlete.
Okay.
But yeah, I think my sisters would have been great
Yeah.
swimmers if
Yeah.
they'd had the opportunities that I had. It's all about being in the right place at the
Yeah.
right time.
No,
I
for
think.
sure. That's that's
Yeah.
the luck that you need.
Yeah.
You still need the hard work. Once you've got the pool, it doesn't help you much if you don't work hard. But to go to a school with a swimming pool
And
is a
so
massive bonus.
It was an amazing pool. It was
Yeah.
a 10-lane, 25-meter pool.
Wow.
And then also for me, like I always say this to my kids, to have a coach that believes in you.
Mm.
Like Tom
Yeah, for
Frankel
sure.
made me believe in myself. He
Mhm,
got so
mhm.
excited when he saw me. He used to go, look at this girl, look at her feet bend, look at her muscles, look at the... And I used to think, maybe I can be a champion. You know, that
Exactly.
was like...
You need
how
one person to believe in you.
I think so,
Yeah.
and I think that's so important.
Yeah.
And you know, for my girls who are now swimmers in a much harder time, they've
Yeah.
had that with their coach Hilton Slack.
Yeah.
He's been so incredible just in terms he's very low key. He allows them to be who they are. They were water polo players when
Yeah.
they started, so he never really put them under too much pressure to kind of achieve or be at every session.
Yeah.
And he's kept their love for swimming alive, and
Oh,
I
that's
think that's so
fantastic.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You've had a lot of successes at University of Texas. I think you guys won the NCAA 4 years in a row, which had never been done before. But the bit I want to get to is in 1985, I think you tried to get British citizenship.
Yes, that's correct.
So that started, and your aim was to swim in the Commonwealth
Yeah.
Games in '86.
Well, I had British passport
Okay.
and citizenship through my mum,
Okay.
and so she was born in England. So
Okay.
I think that passport process started a bit sooner than
Okay.
that. But so because I had it, and South Africa was banned from competing
Yeah.
in the Olympics in those years because of apartheid, my mom obviously wanted me to have opportunities to travel and what have you. And
Yeah.
they said, I'm going to university in America, but South Africa can't get there. And my dream was to go to the Olympics, obviously. I mean, that's like any kid's dream,
Exactly.
I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
I try and play that down with my girls because I think there are other things like the opportunity to go and swim in America to get your degree.
Yeah.
There's so many things that sport gives you.
Yeah.
That's not just Olympics.
That if you
So it's
only have
not
the
about
singular goal and you don't reach it, it could
so
be
I
very
was a bit
destructive.
like tunnel vision
Yeah.
for that, which was quite sad in a way because looking back, if I think about what swimming did for me, it wasn't all about the Olympics. I've
Yeah.
had friendships all over the world. It gave me
Yeah.
my degree at an amazing
Yeah.
university in America. You know, it just, there's so many other things that it brings you. It gives
Yeah.
you job opportunities. It gives
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you know, if you get known, it just helps.
Yeah.
But I was very fortunate to go to University of Texas, and also it's such an exciting time because they had Olympians
Yeah.
from all over coming. So 84 was the Olympics in LA, and then all these kids that I'd read about my whole life
Yeah.
in Swimming World magazine suddenly became my roommates and my suite
That's
mates at
fantastic,
university, and every training session was like a swim meet.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So it was very competitive, but it was an awesome learning experience.
Okay. And you
Yeah.
successfully graduated from the university, but
Yeah.
before you graduated, you did go to England and you swam
Yeah.
in the British Championships, or what was it
Yes,
called, the
in
Commonwealth
yeah.
Trials or whatever?
Yeah, British champs in Coventry, the Commonwealth Games trials in 1986.
Yes. And made the team.
Yes, I won the 100 and 200 freestyle at the British champs and made the Commonwealth Games team. But then the hoo-ha started because then...
Even before you went to the Commonwealth, there was already
yes.
bad press.
Oh yes,
Oh,
it
wow.
started because also I was taking now a British girl who had lived there all her life. I was taking somebody else's place that could potentially have made the team,
Yeah.
and I'd come from South Africa. And I think it would have been fine, but because there was the whole debacle with Zola Budd and Mary
Yes,
Decker
yes.
at the Olympics, it was heightened by her PR and publicity. So I
So
kind
had
of
that already
felt
happened?
that had happened in
Okay.
84,
Okay,
at
that's
the
right.
LA Olympics.
That's right, yes.
So now it was 1986, and Zola was also in England,
Yes.
competing for England, and she also was made the British team. So she and I were in it together. So
Okay.
if you look at a lot of the newspaper features, my mum's kept all these scrapbooks. It was all Zola and me together. There's even a Giles cartoon.
I
with
saw the
two of us
cartoon,
in it.
and I always think when someone's drawn a cartoon of you, you've really arrived. You've made it. But unfortunately, for the wrong reasons, there. I mean, I think the one cartoon where Zola, where the guy says to Zola, but obviously it's not about winning.
Yeah. And it's like you're left out in the cold with the wolves coming at you, like those things. But the reason why I know about the Giles cartoon was Achim van Arnhem's wife.
Okay.
She sent me the Giles book in an envelope. I'll never forget it. And she said, I'd never met anybody so famous that could be in a Giles cartoon. And I was like, what? And I opened it and she marked the page for me, which I thought was such a sweet, I've never forgotten that.
And there's one cartoon where they've actually scratched out the names. It's like a betting, Steve Ovett and Sebastian Coe, and you and Zola. So you were in the top league when it comes to the names. But obviously,
it was a hectic time because the British press are relentless. And they cottoned onto this thing. Listen, the Queen was involved. Margaret Thatcher was involved because they were, if you watch The Crown now, the whole history of this time is there. My hair stood on end when I watched it because it brought back everything. And I got to see what was going on there because of the Queen sort of arguing with Margaret Thatcher and the Queen wanting to place sanctions on South Africa because they wanted to stop what was going on, which is understandable, and Margaret Thatcher just holding her ground, saying no. And potentially it also had something to do with her son having interests here in South Africa as well. So it's a very interesting history when you look at it from, because all I was trying to do was swim a race. And I was embroiled in this thing that was so much bigger than me. And
where were your parents? They were in South Africa when you were
in South Africa.
So where did you find support? I mean, who helped you? Who guided you through this process?
I think that was the hardest thing. I was on my own, but I had families that really, really looked after me and people that were amazing. My coach Keith Bewley, who sadly passed away a few years ago in the UK. I went to swim in Wigan, where I got to know Robin Azell because he was playing rugby for Wigan, and that's where we started our friendship.
My goodness.
And shame, the family, like Keith's family took me in. There were people, the Hindmarch family in London that, well, they weren't in London, they were in the north of England. They had this most beautiful estate, this home in a place called Bardsea in Cumbria, and they took me in under their wing, and they were so good to me. I can't even tell you the amazing people that I encountered. And then there were also the horrible people, the people that were against me. And I would, like my parents eventually, when I was kicked out of the Commonwealth Games for being born in South Africa, eventually out of the village, I was actually police escorted out of
on the day that the event actually started, on the opening day.
The day before my race. I was literally police escorted out of the Commonwealth Games village because it had gone to the High Court in London, and all the money that I made off interviews, because I had news of the world and everybody like clamoring after the story, my club took it and used it to fight the court case in London. So I never saw a cent of it.
Unbelievable.
And anyway, they were 100. So they felt very strongly about the fact that I should be allowed to swim and that I had British citizenship. But there were deeper issues going on, which maybe potentially when I was so young, I wasn't really fully aware of. And it kind of led to something so fabulous, I guess, for South Africa. So at the end of the day, you can't look back with regrets. I mean, it was sad that I never got that opportunity. And then the girl who won my race, the 100 free at the Commonwealth Games,
in a slower time than your qualifying time.
Yeah, so that was also.
And you watched from the stands, apparently.
I sat with the New Zealand swimmers. They also were fabulous.
Were you undercover then, or?
Yeah, I was sort of undercover, and I still remember sitting with the New Zealand swimmers and the Australians, and they were singing Waltzing Matilda and everything, and I was watching my race, and the Canadian girl won my race, and it was tough. It was really, really tough. I was heartsore and heartbroken because I'd worked so hard.
No, for sure.
I remember seeing Princess Di and Prince Charles coming. They sat on the other side in the royal box at Edinburgh at the pool, and the Queen walked straight past me afterwards, actually.
You didn't even say anything in Afrikaans to her about this.
Oh, no. I'm telling you, I was a very respectful girl. So even though I probably felt like saying something in Afrikaans, because there's nothing like Afrikaans.
A couple of good words that you can use.
Listen, when my mom got cross with me when I grew up, she used to flick in Afrikaans to me. And that's what I always remember.
Yeah, classic.
Ach, Annette, man.
Yeah, this is. I think young kids watch this program as well, so we should we should steer clear of the Afrikaans words. You mentioned earlier on that you went back to Edinburgh and you saw the pool for a BBC program, or someone did a program.
That was
Tell me about
its 30th anniversary, so that would have been 4 years ago now.
Okay.
The BBC flew me over to Edinburgh. It was very strange for me to go back there. I had it was like a total sense of deja vu walking into the Royal Commonwealth pools.
All the negative.
Yeah, and then walking through the Commonwealth Village, seeing where the residences are now, because they're university residences where we were housed. And the difference is that it was so it was like going to the Olympics. I mean, it was a huge thing. Like, it was so... You know, you had athletes like Sebastian Coe and Daley Thompson. They were so famous. Yeah. And like wherever you went in the village, there were like cameras, and it was so exciting. And then when
that's the stuff you work for. That's what you put the hours of sweat and tears into a sport. Is for those moments, and not just for the race, for the experience of actually, getting your kit, getting on a plane, traveling there, and to have that taken away from you being in the village already. I mean, that is heartbreaking.
I almost felt like a little bit of an intruder in a way. The way they made me feel like being part of the English team is, by the time I was finished with the media and the press and the hatred and I felt like a little bit of an intruder, to be honest. Although in the beginning I was very confident, it really does knock your confidence when you go through, at such a young age, you go through something like that. And eventually my parents flew over from South Africa to meet me there, and we went on a holiday after the Commonwealth Games through the Lake District, and we did everything. We went to Bath and London. They were amazing. They just gave me a break from everything before I flew back to America. And I'll never forget the one day we were in Russell Square, and we had got some pictures from a holiday, and we were like, because in those days you used to develop pictures and then get the packet and sit and look, and we were in Russell Square in London and sitting there looking at the pictures, and there was this couple that had a baby, and they were sitting not too far away from us, and they got up and they obviously recognized me from the media, from the press and everything, and they went, just piss off back to South Africa.
Wow.
Like that. And that kind of, it stayed with me for the rest of my life, because I thought, okay. And that really had a bad effect on me. And I went back to swim in America, and I was very demotivated. And my coach in America, Richard Quick, was the American Olympic coach. He was quite hardcore, and he was very hard on us girls. We were a women's team. The men's team swam with Eddie Reese separately. So
you focused mainly on the girls' swimming team?
Yeah, so you had a men's team and a women's team. And so we swam and trained separately. Although we were together with all our social stuff, we did different sessions. Which was tough in itself, because I was so used to training with guys in growing up. And I think training with boys is a great leveler, because girls can get a little bit catty. And so
I wouldn't know.
So anyway, and it was highly competitive, so sometimes I sort of look back and I think I'm very grateful for my time at Texas, but it was such a prestigious swimming university to go to that I sometimes wonder if I hadn't gone to like a little lesser university where I had more personal attention, if it wouldn't have been better for me, because it was really big. It was a big team. I don't regret it for a second, because it was amazing to be part of such, the winning team. It was incredible. I learned a lot about team spirit as opposed to swimming for yourself. Yes, because swimming can be a sport where you focus mainly on your own performances. Yeah, except for the one or two relays which is always fun. But
But to know that your points actually add up to a team total and
that's what's so great about swimming in America at university. It's all about the team. It's not really about you. Okay, it's important that you do well because you're getting points for your team. That's what it's all about. But anyway, so Richard Quick made me go back to England the next year against my will. I didn't want to because they said, oh, but it's World Championships, it'll be fine. And I didn't want to swim. I almost went through a depression from what happened to me the year before. So I went to the British Champs, and after winning, and I knew I could win everything. I could easily have won everything, but I just loafed. I swam slowly in the races, so I didn't want to get anywhere because I didn't want any attention.
Yes.
I didn't want any media following me. I didn't want anything, so I just dipped out on it. And Richard was very cross with me. I went back to America. I remember him being very, very angry. And then in my last year I thought, okay, I'm going to pull myself together now because otherwise I'm going to lose my scholarship and I need to swim for my last year so I can pay for my education. And I just gave it horns in my last year of university.
And was that your best year for
competition-wise? I swam my best times. The difficulty was Richard would put me in America. You can put different relay swimmers on in the morning to the heats to the finals. So Richard would use me in the morning, and sometimes I'd have like the second fastest split, and we'd break the American and US Open record in the sprint relays, and then I was becoming a good 50 swimmer as well. And so 50 and 100.
Less 200s.
I liked the 200 still, but I was getting better at the 50. I was never that good at the 50 when I was younger. Not like my Livy and my goals are just different, they have different strengths. So George is more 100, 200 and Livy's more 50, 100. I think you just have that. It's interesting. But he would take me off the relay often in the finals because then the other girls would go and win the medal, and they were American, so then it was an American record with American girls, and I always found that quite tough as well because I was really swimming well. So there was just like in my swimming career there were
all these injustices that or stuff that you couldn't really explain.
But you can't, you can't take it all on. You almost I would be a complete mess if I kind of internalized too much of that stuff.
So that's my question. Obviously looking at you now, you're a very well balanced mom and a wife, and you look back at your swimming career and you remember all the good stuff. Obviously a lot of disappointment. Was it just hard work that got you through that? Was it just going back to the drawing board, refocus and try and show them all?
It's an interesting question. I really loved swimming. I loved the feeling of being fit. I loved the training. I loved the friendships. I can't explain how I got over it. I think if I was like messed up in my head, maybe not. But I was very strong, and I also had my faith. I have very strong faith, so that carried me through everything. Although I think that was so important for me to have that, Good. And I've never kind of like preached anything to anyone, but internally that's kept me strong.
That's amazing to hear, and obviously a strong support base. I mean, your parents and your friends sisters, and your coach.
They were amazing. My middle sister was an artist. My eldest sister's English teacher, but she was so talented at music and theatre and other things, and my middle sister's now an amazing artist. She lives in Australia, and they were always so supportive of me. I was much younger, obviously, so I was maybe like their little, they always used to call me the baby. I was the baby until I became the swimmer, and then everybody used to, when they used to see my parents, they used to irritate me. The friends used to go, "Is this your baby?" And then as I grew up, they said, "Is this the swimmer?" I always remember that, how it changed from baby to swimmer.
There's talking of swimming, there's a specific race I want to take you back. You're the first African lady to break the 1 minute barrier in freestyle. Tell me about that in the 100 meters freestyle.
It doesn't sound so fast now.
Those were the days. I mean, if you're the first one, then it
it was quite an exciting.
I think the minute barrier for everybody, whether you're 14 or 11 or 10 years old, we were a bit older when we broke the minute. I still remember my race as well when I broke the minute and then went faster. It's like a mental barrier. Tell me about that, the preparation, and did you know you were going to do it that evening?
I don't think, I wasn't really aware because I was still, I think I was 14 years old.
Oh wow.
So it was before I got my Springbok colours,
Yes.
and I got my Springbok colours when I was 15. And I obviously was training hard to go for things, but I had no clue. I mean, and I remember that being a very exciting barrier and everybody being so excited.
I remember it. I still remember it.
I don't think I quite understood what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was just swimming and like having fun. And I remember Ian Cameron Strange was the journalist for the Argus. I think he lives in New Zealand now. I'm not too sure what's happened to Ian, but he was incredible. He gave swimming so much publicity in the years of like Karen van Helden and Jenny and the Hienis sisters, Margie, and he really, really put us out there on the map and made swimming so interesting, I think, for everyone. So that doesn't really exist too much at the moment. Now you're doing it.
I'm trying my best. There's another sport that you competed in, freshwater lifesaving, and you broke a world record in a 200-meter obstacle event.
I think that was a fluke. Anyway, I don't know what happened.
You need a bit of luck sometimes in life.
I don't know what.
And that was shortly after Currie Cup, so you must have been just really fit.
It was in 1983. I remember somebody just saying to me, "You have to go because they're going on this amazing tour to the Virgin Islands and Austria." And I was just like, Virgin Islands, I'm in. It's fine. What do I need to do? How do I do this? I remember that. And there was this thing called the 200 obstacle race, which I very quickly learned how to do.
Okay.
It wasn't that difficult. It was like a dummy at the bottom. You had to pretend there was a dummy and you had to go up and down. There was this guy, this coach in Joburg. His name was Saki.
Okay.
He was obviously Saki for a reason. And his wife, they were amazing. They were the sweetest people. And there was like Theo Kutsia was involved. He was a very good freshwater lifesaver. And then I suddenly made the Springbok team for lifesaving. And I don't even know if I knew what I was doing. But anyway, I was a quick learner. And then we went on tour to Austria. And funny enough, it was a combined tour. Saki and his wife were the managers. And they were very sweet to all of us. And then there was this board sailing team from South Africa who came with us. And then they were the ones that were competing in the Virgin Islands. So we kind of went with them to the Virgin Islands. How this is interesting. So we went on a yacht from island to island while they raced. Yeah. They raced from island to island. We were on the yacht, like sunning ourselves and training. The only training we could do was from yacht to yacht. And so we'd go back and forth. We'd see a good-looking guy on the one yacht and we'd swim there and back as fast as we could. Like, no, I'm joking. But we had such a fun tour, and then they came with us after that to Austria, because then the champs were in Austria, in a beautiful setup in Bregenz in Austria. They had 2 50-meter pools in a row. I'll never forget it. Like, I'd never seen anything like it in my life. And that's where I broke the world record.
You never did surf lifesaving?
I didn't, no. I don't think I had time for anything else. I had my schoolwork at the same time, so I had to finish my matric, and
You mentioned in one of our talks that you have so much respect for what your mum did back in the days when she travelled and took you to swimming. And now you have to do the same. And when you said something to your mom, and you did a lot of, and she said, but there wasn't so much traffic in the days.
Yeah,
so she actually played it down.
Yeah, my mum got a tumor in her frontal sinus, which was so sad after my father passed away. I think a lot of it had to do with stress and what have you. And my mum was, both my parents were an incredible support. Obviously, my dad, being a physician, didn't have all the time to fetch and carry me, so my mum did all of that. And she would organize the supper. My dad would have his supper when he came home as a doctor. My supper was always in the warming drawer when I came back. And we had a little bit of a lift club, so she didn't always do it, but mainly she did. And I said to her, she was in hospice, and I held her hand and I said, Mom, I just want to say I so appreciate like every thing you did for me, because now that I'm a mom, like I only understand and get the sacrifice of driving. And also it was far. I just go up and down Wynberg Hill, which is no issue. But she really traveled far and she had to wait, so she could never go home and come back. So she would wait, or she'd go visit a friend, or she'd go to
she'd make a scrapbook.
She would make a scrapbook, or she'd read. She was an avid reader. She loved reading. And then, she said, but Niti, the traffic wasn't so bad in those days. She was like,
unbelievable.
She was just so, She was the most incredible mom and the most incredible person. So
well, she installed some of that in you, and that's why you're doing it for your daughters now. Because I often see you at the swimming galas if I go and photograph them, and you just there amongst the timekeepers, and nobody even knows that back in the days you would have challenged most of the girls in the pool.
Oh, I don't know.
That to me is actually not the sad thing, but that's the circle of life. I once saw Johan Fourie run with a group of school kids, and you could see you were struggling to get them to run faster. And I just thought to myself, kids, if you know who your coach is, and I mean, I've discovered it through these interviews, you know, guys like Owen Kaper and even Santa van Jelsveld, who coached me, and is now breaking world records again for our age group. But they were all incredible swimmers. You know, a guy like Brian Stewart, who started the swimming club in Windhoek, which I joined. I mean, these guys were, in the 60s, South Africa had amazing swimmers.
Yeah, incredible. And it was a very special time to be part of South African swimming. I mean, we were doing like dodgy tours to Israel and Taiwan undercover. Nobody was allowed to know we was from South Africa because of the apartheid and what was going on. And we were just trying to compete. We were just trying to be athletes, but there was so much more going on, and
a lot of noise that you had to block out too.
Yeah, and the thing is, it was part of, I sort of like, when I look back at it now, I don't want to be angry about it. I want to see it as we were part of making change for South African sport.
It's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, and I think, what can you do? You move on. So maybe I never got to go to the Olympics because it's not my fault. I would have probably gone to 4 Olympic Games.
Talk to me about the Olympics, because you came back from America, and then I think it was 91. You started swimming with an aim to qualify for the Olympics, and you were good enough to make it. I mean, your times were good enough, but then Marianne Kriel beat you twice.
She beat me, yes. Marianne, I absolutely adore Marianne, and she's such a talented girl.
We'll have to talk to her as well. I was
already at work, so I decided, sure, South Africa's back in the Olympics, so I'd already quit swimming.
Did you stop training?
I had stopped.
Okay,
so
for how long?
Like, I was working for the Health and Racquet Club group in those days.
I remember that.
And I went to Rod Mitchell, the head of Health and Racquet Club Group, who I loved working for. And I said, you know, Rod, South Africa's back in the Olympics. I have to give this a go. Like, I can't sit here and work when I think I can go. It's been my lifetime dream, because now South Africa's back in. I couldn't swim for England or Great Britain.
So now you can put that disappointment behind you and focus on your new goal.
I can now swim for South Africa. And Rod, I'll never forget, Rod looked at me, and he was a realist, Rod. He looked at me and he went, Annette, I'll never back an old horse. So I was like, okay, so I lived with that, but I thought, stuff that, you know, okay, like, I'll prove you wrong. And then went to nationals. That was the nationals in Durban, where it was so incredibly cold, and Kings Park had open sides, so the wind was almost like snow cold, and the pool wasn't heated at all. The water was, the swimmers today wouldn't even put their toe in that water. We were quite used to cold water, but it was colder than cold. And you couldn't race properly.
And especially in Natal, where you're not used to.
I know, it's so strange. It was a very strange turn of events, and it was a tough nationals, because kids were really struggling with the cold water. But that nationals, so I'd come back, I'd started training again for a few months, but then I actually did my best 50-meter free time, I remember.
Your fastest, quickest time?
Yeah, I came second to Marianne, but both our times was fast enough, and qualify. They were picking the top 2. And it's a little bit vague, but my Hanlie Vermeulen's father was a selector from the Free State, and he told me that when he went into the selection meeting, Sam Ramsamy said to him, "You can pick anyone, but you're not allowed to pick Annette Cowley."
Because you went to the.
I swam for England, and it was all part of that. And what was really upsetting for me is that Sam, and I see him to this day, you know, when he saw me first at nationals with the girls, he said, "Oh, Annette, what you doing here? Are you coaching?" And I went.
Some of the Afrikaans words sort of come up again.
Because
as I'm sitting here, I can think of a few words that I was
scared to tell him my daughters were swimming, you know, because I thought, God, don't do this to my daughters, please. I can't deal with this and I feel sad in a way, because Sam's never taken the time to know me.
No.
He's never taken the time to understand what my beliefs are or how liberal our family were. He just put me in a box.
Exactly.
like I stood for whatever white
yeah.
South Africa stood for at the time, which is actually really shocking and quite sad.
Yeah.
And I would have loved the opportunity to sit down with him if he had invited me, to say, you know, listen, this is who I am. And I think Sam actually would have really liked me if he had taken the trouble, and probably, yeah, I don't know. They had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission for everything else, but I've never really had that.
Interesting.
I've never ticked that thing off my list.
That's interesting, yeah. No, it's interesting. I spoke to Lee McGregor the other day, and I'm actually seeing him now later in December, and he also has some interesting stories to tell about being kicked out of the Olympics, and
it's really
that
tough.
name came up again.
Yeah, no, it's a tough one, and he's still involved, and he's still there heading everything up for the Olympics and what have you. So I don't, I'm a very forgiving person, so I don't harbor, I find it hard to see him or to be around him, because I have such clear visions of what he did to me.
Yeah.
Like it was in his power to do what he did, and I don't think he ever understood the hours, the relentless training that went into, my swimming career, and how motivated I was, and what maybe a brand ambassador I could have been for swimming. So I kind of felt like squashed, like put into a box.
Yeah.
But, I can't hold on to those resentments. I just can't. I'm just not that person.
No, well, good for you, because otherwise you carry the baggage and you pay
it's not healthy.
You pay the price over and over again.
Yeah.
So well done for that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. But I'll say that, like, the other amazing things that came from my swimming, and that's what I like to focus on.
And the friendships.
And
all the nice messages you're going to get from the people watching this video. And saying she's still the same Annette. We
slightly plumper.
No, it's just the camera angles may be wrong. Yeah. Annette, so talk to me about your daughters that are swimming. I know your son plays water polo. Does he still play water polo?
No, sadly not. He was a very good water polo player.
And did he swim competitively as well, or not?
For a short while.
Okay.
He had great potential, but he wasn't interested.
Okay.
So
but
Jordan,
the two girls are.
He's 6'7" and he's such a big, strong boy. If he had swum, he probably would have just had such a great opportunity.
Imagine the butterflies.
Yeah, he was a very good backstroke swimmer. I think he wasn't really that good yet, but he had the potential. Okay. So, and I really wish he had carried on.
A team sport like water polo, it's very tough to compete with swimming up and down a lane. And if you're a social person,
Jordan,
water polo
water polo. I think because he went to school at Redham initially before he went to Bishops, their whole culture was water polo. So that's where he learned it.
Good for him.
Yeah, he loved it through school, and they won the Currie Cup gold medal in matric finally, because it took years and years for Bishops to win that, and then he got that and he said, that's it.
Okay.
Over. And so that was done, And the girls, they also started as water polo players.
Yes.
And they saw...
Weren't they coached by Anthony Pierce at one stage or not?
No. They had various coaches through Redham, and they also started at Redham and then ended up at Herschel. The one reason they wanted to go to Herschel was because of the coach there, Meg Schooling. They loved her. But then she left the next year, which then they didn't want to carry on with polo for too much longer after that. I think they stopped at the end of the grade. Well, that's
swimming's gain, because they're now still both very committed in swimming.
Listen, I think it's a harder road, swimming. It's a tougher, they were brilliant water polo players, I think, for their age at the time. Who knows where they would be now, but I think water polo for them would have been like a sort of an easier path, I would think.
Annette, you guys don't do the easy road.
They chose it. It's I never ever told them what to do. They chose swimming. They love the people. Like me, they love the people.
So, are you ever Annette Cowley the swimmer to them, or are you always just mom supporting? No, mom. You never coach, you never give tips?
I'm so irritating. I micromanage. No, I don't know. You'll have to ask them that.
I'm going to ask them, Annette, it is just incredible to speak to you and to see the smile is still on the face, and swimming still energizes you, I can see. So,
well, I love talking about swimming. Jeremy, my husband, who's amazing and been a great support, He's like my therapist. He's so funny. He just thinks, yeah, there's no issues, not really. But, you know, obviously the hurt runs deep, but I try not to bring it up. But, you know, he's my gold medal, I think.
Awesome.
I've got a very happy marriage. I'm very fortunate.
I know that you guys cycle together and you cook together and you support the girls together.
We don't cycle together. I chase him on my e-bike. Well, he's not on an e-bike, but I'm on an e-bike to keep up with him.
Awesome. So and you love rugby as well. I saw you many times at Newlands. So you still...
I enjoy that. I mean, we're very good friends. You know, we've got very good friends with connections in rugby. One of our very good friends is Francois Pienaar. And obviously Rob Lowe, he's like my brother, is very special to me. So yeah, I've always loved following the sport. My dad was an avid rugby fan. He absolutely loved it. So yeah, he was very, like, Rob knew my dad very well. And obviously we all grew up in the same sort of areas, so we got to see each other. But after I came back from England, so I was very, very lucky to have.
So you never got hooked on the American sports like basketball,
I loved
baseball,
it. I loved
NFL?
Watching it, but I'm going to have to get back into it. I mean, Jeremy and I, when we took the girls to look where they're going to go to university next year, we were very fortunate because we arrived there at the big football weekend at University of North Carolina. So we went to a football game.
Fantastic.
Sweltering hot. We were dying, and UNC was playing Clemson that weekend, so that was great. And the girls got to see their first football game.
And I hope they liked it because
they had fun. Yeah, they've got to you've got to understand it, I think, to get into it. What they loved was the basketball, and of course basketball at UNC is big because that's where Michael Jordan started playing. Before he went pro. So it's a huge sport at North Carolina, and the basketball arena is right next door to the training pool. So they're very lucky to go to such a great sporting university.
Well, I can see the excitement in your face when you talk about that. So there's a very interesting journey ahead. I want to wish you success through your daughters. Maybe they can do some of the stuff that you weren't allowed to do, but I'm sure you're going to be able to guide them. And it's just good to see that you are so active still and you love swimming, because I see you at all the swimming meets.
Yeah, I do love it. I don't know if I love swimming anymore per se, but it's good for me when I do. But I'm not, I don't want to compete anymore. I just think I've been there and
Masters is in Cape Town in March.
No, that's too soon. You laugh, the Masters swimmers, it's the biggest joke. It's like I make guest appearances. Yeah, they call me the phantom swimmer. I do dip in every now and then, but not for long. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the girls, progress at university. They're going to have such a professional coaching setup and beautiful facilities, and that makes it fun for me to watch them.
Annette, thanks very much. It was fun talking to you. It brings back a lot of memories, good memories.
It's been wonderful, and I've known you since we were so high, so it's really great to chat to you too, and thank you for taking the time.
Thanks. Olivia, your mom was an incredible swimmer, and now she's just a mom. Do you know anything about her swimming? Does she ever talk to you about her swimming? Or?
She occasionally brings up her swimming, not too much, because I think she likes to keep it quite relaxed with us, because I know she never wants to put her past or any pressure on us. So she's always very hopeful for our future and kind of being the supportive mom instead of comparing any of her swimming to us. So I just we know a little bit of her background, that she went to Texas and that she did swim insanely well, and that she qualified for Olympics, but she couldn't go obviously because of apartheid. So we know a few things, and sometimes she asks us about our times and about her best times, and then we just have some fun.
And how does it compare?
It actually compares, it's a little bit, sometimes I see her times and I'm like, you were actually quite fast, because back in the day they didn't have racing suits or proper diving blocks or anything like that, so it's very impressive to see her times.
And the nutrition was, I spoke to your mom now, we ate toasted cheese most of the time. So
it's so advanced now, it's crazy to see how it's all become such a big thing, and I'm just I kind of wish I was back there with her. I would have been so proud of her if I was with her, and I kind of wish I was on her team sometimes.
Well, she's on your team, and
she's on my team now.
She's on your team, and she's always there as a timekeeper.
She looked like
and
a fun training buddy.
yeah, you get her back in the pool and get her to train. You guys are heading off to America soon.
Yes, we are, to University of North Carolina.
Oh, unbelievable, and I can see the excitement in Mom's eyes when she speaks about it. So I'm sure they're going to be over in America often to support you guys and check up on the boyfriends, I'm sure.
She said she's going to move in ASAP. She can't wait. It's such an amazing opportunity. We're really so excited for it. And it's quite nice that I can go with my twin sister.
Yeah, that
Georgia.
is incredible.
So
just talk to me quickly about your swimming. What are your favorite strokes?
I'm very much a sprinter. So I swim freestyle and backstroke.
Okay.
And I swim the 50 meters, 100 meters, and the occasional 200. But I don't.
That's where you draw the line.
That's the cutoff. I know I'm swimming Western Cape Champs soon, and I'm doing the 200 backstroke there.
Well, that's a big challenge for you.
I just regret entering myself a little bit, but I'm sure I'll be fine once I'm behind the blocks. I'm just kind of gonna see how it goes.
Okay. And Sis, what does she swim?
She is actually very much a versatile swimmer.
Okay.
She swims 50, 100. 200 and sometimes even the 400 freestyle.
Okay.
She says she doesn't have a specialized stroke, so she's very much an IM swimmer. So she swims all the strokes, and I do know that she loves her freestyle sprints with me as well. We do race each other quite often, so yeah, that's fun. But she said she's gonna kind of find her way when she makes her way to North Carolina, because I think that once you get there, they give you very specialized training with regards to like
very focused
strokes.
on certain
so
strokes.
I think for now she's kind of just having fun with it and racing as fast as she can, and then when she gets there, I'm sure they'll give her a love for something and kind of find what she's very good at.
Well, I'm very glad that you two are continuing the legacy your mom started. I don't know if you know that she was the first South African or African lady to go under 1 minute. I mean, it was a massive barrier. If you can imagine, no one else in South Africa has done that before.
Well under as well.
So you guys can continue the legacy and go and
hopefully
tell the rest of the world.
There as well.
Take it further and show the rest of the world what South Africa is all about.
We definitely will.
All the best. You still got subjects to write?
Yes, we're writing Afrikaans paper 3 on Friday. And then I have my art history next week Tuesday, and then unfortunately we have to rewrite our maths exam.
I heard about that.
So yeah, that's next week Tuesday as well, and I know that Georgia has to rewrite her chemistry as well.
Oh my goodness. And when are you guys flying to the States? When is that?
They start next year August, so we'll probably go around July.
Oh, so you're still here for a bit?
Yeah, it's like a little free half gap year, you can call it, because...
So hopefully I can come and watch you guys swim.
Definitely.
All the best and good luck for the
Thank
final part of the
much.
exams, and enjoy December holidays.
Thank you.
Sure, thanks.